Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. Hey guys, welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name is Andrew Frezza, and I'm joined today by
Danielle
and Tony Frezza.
And this is Danielle's first episode. Welcome her to the podcast. And we're going to be talking today about the top nutrition questions. We put out a little thing on our Facebook page to ask for some of the top nutrition questions, concerns that people have, and our members responded. So we're going to be going through some of those top nutrition questions and just giving you guys our take on those things and get those answered today. So we'll go right down the list. First one we have is, how many times a week is it okay to allow myself a less than healthy meal? And this is someone who's kind of feeling like it's hard for them to stay strict all the time. They feel like they're kind of like almost like a ticking time bomb with wanting to cheat. So Tony, what do you got?
Well, first I like to break it down to them and just tell them, like, you know, how many meals are you eating in a day? Like 4 to 5. Let's say it's 5, right? Okay, so 5 times 7, 35 meals in a week. And they get so caught up on, you know, maybe two cheat meals. And it's like 2 out of 35. Like, I played baseball. You could get a hit 3 times out of 10 and do really well. Like, you're cheating 2 times out of 35. That's great, you know? And when it comes to the cheating thing, like, I kind of let people just cheat fully, you know, enjoy it and not feel like they're holding back in that cheat, right? Or else they won't feel like it's a cheat at all and feel like they'll have to make more of the rest of those 33 meals less than great, you know? So I'd rather see 33 great meals in a week and then two or three completely horrible ones, and you're gonna be closer to your goals for the most part.
Yeah.
In a general sense.
The biggest question is what's happening in those other 33 meals, right?
Yeah.
You know, or 32 or 34. Like, it's not that huge of a difference. Like, for some people, a cheat is, it's, you know, a couple beers or 1 beer. For others, it is 5 beers, you know, a ton of tacos and then a huge dessert and then ice cream, and it's that was all wrapped up into one cheat, right? If we're talking about like one treat, like I'm gonna have, you know, a couple servings of ice cream or something. You know, if you're using your math, 32, 33 meals look really good throughout the week, you could probably get away with that. If they don't, I think when you have a lot of gray area, like restaurants provide a lot of gray area because you don't really know what's in it. So if you're eating out, you know, every day, at least once or twice, or even just 4 or 5 times a week, those might feel like healthy meals too because you're making good decisions, but you may have just kind of given up your margin for error to be able to then have that cheat that you really wanted instead. So it really depends on what are you doing in those good times. What do you think, Danielle?
I think it's a slippery slope. A lot of people are like, okay, I'm gonna have my cheat meal on Sunday and we're gonna go out for breakfast and it's gonna be great, and then I'm gonna get right back on track. But I feel like for most people it's like, okay, I had that breakfast and then by the next week that was good, they're gonna do it the next week again, and then when they do that, it's like, okay, like I'm gonna eat out for lunch as well because we have this thing going on, and so then it turns into breakfast and lunch, and it's just really like a slippery slope of that one cheat meal turning into a full day thing, into a 2-day thing, to a 3-day thing, to where it's like, okay, Friday through Sunday, calories don't count, I can eat whatever I want. And I feel like a lot of the time, or at least for me, that's what it turns into. So
Yeah, a lot of these answers too that we're going to have is going to be, it depends on the person, because for some people, we were talking about this yesterday, is like, for some people, like ice cream is the best example. For some people, the idea of having Halo Top is disgusting, because it's like, that's not real ice cream, that doesn't taste good, it doesn't satisfy me. For others, they'd rather have the full thing of Halo Top and have that like big substance. Like, I want to be able to eat the whole pint of something. Even if it's not as good, I just want to feel like I can binge and realize it's only, whatever, 300, 400 calories. It's not that big of a damage that I've done. Whereas the other person's like, I'd rather have a few spoonfuls or a half a pint of Ben & Jerry's and be like fully satisfied, because it's like the real thing. And you kind of have these different mindsets, and you have to really look at like, who am I? Like, where do I fit into this picture? Because for the person who can't get back on track, you can't be the person that goes like, I'm gonna go no holds barred for this meal or this day, because like you're gonna probably not get back on track the next day.
Yeah, eventually. I feel like you can always start there and it always sounds good, but that leniency, we tend to get a little dishonest with ourselves for the most part. But I mean, it works great for you, so you're a great example of.
We do set very strict like non-negotiables in our family, in our house. Like, you know, it's a non-negotiable, like every meal is going to be homemade, and then Friday, Saturday, we're going to probably have a meal each day where that's not homemade, and that's it. Like, for our whole week, that's our 2 meals that are not homemade, right? And then the cheating, like, I think it comes back, like we just finished our challenge, and a lot of people had problems with like, I want a glass of wine every night. Like, and you have to make that non-negotiable, like, I only drink on Friday and Saturday.
Right.
And if you wake up and your iPhone doesn't say Friday or Saturday, you don't have a drink that day. You know, and I think it might be setting strict standards for some people, but when you have those guidelines set, you can't really break them. Right, because you know you'll be reset, your willpower will be reset when you go through those cheat days and get to have your drinks or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
good thing about alcohol,
Go ahead.
A good thing about alcohol, like a lot of people think, okay, moderation is key, I'm gonna have like 1 beverage per night, like when I get home from work to de-stress and that sort of thing. It is better for you to like only drink Friday and Saturday and have a couple drinks in those time frames, just because like how long it takes like your metabolism to work through that alcohol, the time that it's in your system is so much less if you just have a couple drinks Friday and Saturday. So I also feel like that's kind of a common misconception. People think 1 drink per night is better than just a couple on a Friday night or Saturday night or whatever. But
Yeah, you're slowing down your metabolism several times by having it throughout the week like that. The other thing that for this particular client I would ask is, how can we make those 33 meals, those 95% meals, how can we make those more satisfying, where you don't need to, you're not like, God, I need this thing, I need this other thing to make me feel satisfied. And that comes with experience, it comes with having other resources and recipes to kind of go to. But for the most part, you should look forward to your healthy meals, and you should be excited for it. You should be hungry enough where you want to actually eat them. You're not just hungry, you're not just eating out of like habit, right? You're actually hungry, you actually have a physical desire for food. If that's the case, that food should taste good, especially if it's fresh, non-processed stuff. It should taste really good and be satisfying. That doesn't mean you're 100% going to lose the desire to go off track. It shouldn't feel to the point that you're like this ticking time bomb where you need this other thing to kind of satisfy you.
Shouldn't ever feel like a punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can recreate like your favorite meals from a restaurant at home, like a simple paleo, insert food here. You know, I'm just using paleo because it got so popular, and there were so many recipes out there to make those great tasting foods at home in a healthy way. It's all out there, like for you to experiment with and try to make your favorite foods at home.
Yeah, you were talking about that's your approach, Danielle, is you prefer to go that route.
So like I have a great example of that. One time, we have a place in St. Louis called Qdoba. It's pretty similar to like Chipotle, same like system concept. But he went and got like a burrito bowl, and it was like shrimp, like a cilantro lime bowl, and I was like so jealous. I was like, that sounds so good. But it's like unless I'm forced to eat out, I'd rather just make it at home, because who knows what's really in there. And so I went home and I did cauliflower rice, cilantro, lime, made my own shrimp, and it was just as good. Like, I was so satisfied, so happy, and now that's like one of my staples. It's my favorite thing. So
Yeah.
now Austin can't get it because it's seasonal.
It's really beneficial to do stuff like that when that nostalgia like comes into play, and you're like, oh, I remember having this thing, and you can recreate a lot of the same feelings or sort of memories or whatever it is by just kind of creating something similar but in a healthier way. You know, it's cool. All right, so let's go to the next question. So this is a question about nutrient timing and sort of like nutrient timing as a whole. What are our thoughts on that? And then what are the best things to consume pre and post workout for optimum performance and muscle gain was kind of lumped into that. So, you know, our consensus when we talked about this yesterday was nutrient timing in general is just an advanced skill. Like, there's so many other things that you can tackle before that would get you better results. And nutrient timing is kind of that like the top of the pyramid thing of like, it's more of an advanced thing that's going to kind of dial in what you're already doing. It's not going to be the difference of whether or not you're seeing results. What other stuff you guys got for that, or the post-workout stuff, pre and post-workout?
Yeah, so definitely make sure your ducks in a row with everything else first, but kind of just like a general like rule would be your carbs should be close to your workout, primarily post-workout, and then fats furthest away. So regardless of if you're an AMer or a PMer, you can kind of live by that, and you're on the right track. So that would probably be the first thing.
Yeah, and because carbs are going to give you energy for that physical activity, fats are going to help you get through the other parts of your day, right? So higher fat meals away from your workouts, you know, so if you work out at night, have a higher fat meal, low carb at breakfast, and then start working those carbs throughout your day as you get closer to your workout. And so it's ready to fuel you, and because that's the first thing that will be burned when you start lifting those weights.
Yeah, we kind of talked about like if you were going to kind of dive into nutrient timing, you had other stuff like post-workout meal or shake is like tackle that first. Like especially if you're doing CrossFit, like it's a high intensity exercise. If you're going to start going that route, like get, you know, some protein after your workout and have that meal or shake after your workout as your highest serving of carbs of the day. And that could be in shake form, it could be in meal form, but that's what you would want to tackle first. And then the second place you'd want to tackle is what's happening before the workout, and potentially dialing in that. And as Danielle mentioned, that's also around your workout. So you'd also want to have higher carbs, lower fat, maybe more moderate fat then, depending on how early that meal's happening. But it can definitely be your two highest carb meals, highest protein meals around your workouts. Any go-to like supplements or anything like that you guys would recommend for that, or that you guys particularly take? What do you guys take after
when
workouts?
it comes to before workout, you know, something easily digestible, like something like a shake. You know, don't just go ahead and have a big steak like before a workout, because it probably won't sit too well as you're trying to do burpees. You'll be burping a lot. So just an easy shake. And then on the flip side of that, in a post-workout, a shake is going to be quickest delivered to the stores to replenish those energies. So I like going shake and shake on both sides.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people, I don't really like to consume a whole lot before my workout. I prefer to work out like super early in the morning, but post-workout immediately I drink a shake, and I use just a whey protein, like a hydrolyzed whey. It's really clean, and then just some sort of like sugary carbs. So that could be like coconut water. I know that's what Drew really likes to put in his. Or just something that is a carb source that's super easily digested, like Tony said. So even if that's fruit, but then you blend it in the blender, having that liquid, your body just has to work so much less after taxing itself in the gym. It really doesn't want to work very hard. So having that liquid is really good. If not, full meal is great. Within like an hour or so, getting in some good healthy carbs, simple carbohydrates would be best, and a protein source that way.
Yeah, whey definitely has the most, from what I've seen, the most research out there to kind of support it, and that's always our it's been the three of us, our go-to for a while. Actually, felt like for a while I didn't do well with whey, and I don't know if it's just because my nutrition's evolved, but recently with the Ascent protein, like I actually feel really good with it and been taking it consistently after my workout. So some of you guys may want to pay attention to digestive issues if you're going to take whey, if that potentially throws it off. But if you don't, it seems to be really good for the muscle building and recovery after workout. So number 3 is question of how can you achieve the same goal of counting macros. And this is someone who's seen others have a lot of success with macros in terms of weight loss and performance. So how can you see that level of success without actually tracking your food, or is there a way to do that? So do you guys have any suggestions for this person, or what are your thoughts on that? Is it possible?
So first and foremost, I would say that counting macros is kind of the best way to achieve whatever your goal may be, whether that's to gain weight, lose weight, build muscle, all that sort of thing. I would say kind of like an easy way out is to still have a coach that's giving you numbers, macros, but then you can pay somebody else for the preparation. So like a meal prep company or something like that. That would be probably the first way to kind of get out of that, and it would be a little more expensive than making your own food, but convenience factor is really helpful and a lot less thinking and saving time there. So that might be a good option for somebody who doesn't necessarily want to go through the whole tracking on their own.
Yeah. I mean,
it's kind of a loaded question because it's like, where's the person coming from?
Exactly.
Do they even know like that bread has carbs? You know.
Right.
So I would refer them to like a glycemic index. Like, so let's say we have a person that wants to lose weight. Like, have them get an idea of what has sugar and what doesn't have sugar, and what's gonna give them carbs for energy and what has 0 carbs, right? And just kind of get them started there to where they could be like, you know, as we said before, carbs around your workouts, no carbs not around your workouts, all right? And then go from there, looking at the glycemic index of foods and fruits and whatnot that they could throw in there around their workouts versus what they should probably keep away at the other times of the day.
Yeah, I think like exactly what you're saying is depends on where the person's coming from. So if you're someone who's never tried anything, or you've tried a handful of things, like a lot of those people will do our Superhuman challenge, and they'll start to cut out a few foods, you know, primarily getting rid of like the processed stuff, processed grain products, getting rid of some of the sugar, some of the artificial sweeteners. And a lot of people will see a level of success that they feel really good with. They never actually have truly tracked their macros, and they can continue that to a certain degree with little exceptions, like maybe adding back, you know, certain things like rice or corn tortillas or something like that, and they kind of open up their range of foods a little bit, but they never have to track macros and they're pretty happy with it. So that's one person. Now, if you're someone who's tried those things and you're like, I've eaten really clean and I'm just not seeing the success I want, then like 100%, you need some honesty with your approach. Like, you need to get it down on paper, and for you to get any kind of coaching feedback or any type of improvements, someone else needs to see that, or you need to see it clearly laid out, and until you track, it's not going to happen. So one point I would bring up is you can track, and it doesn't have to be forever. You can track for a temporary period of time to get honesty, to get help from a coach, to give you feedback, and it can then lead to more intuitive eating, which is kind of what I think this person is asking for down the road. Agreed. Okay. Cool, let's move on then. Next question is along the lines of macros. What is the best way to determine your macros depending on what your goal is? So Danielle works with some clients right now, and she's got a pretty basic, simple formula I think is really good. So what's kind of your basic formula that you use for getting like calories and macros for someone?
So first thing would be just like determining a baseline. What's their life like? So sedentary job, active job, that sort of thing, kind of just to get like a gauge of their like caloric expenditure throughout the day, but then also like what their goals are, age are, that sort of thing. So there's like a broad variance between like an older lady who needs to lose a couple pounds as opposed to a young 20-something-year-old guy who's wanting to build a lot of muscle. So kind of just like a basic generic way for someone just to figure out a general guideline would be to start with protein. So first and foremost, that's the most important macro. Your body is literally made up of protein. And so with that, like, say a pound or a gram per pound of body weight is like a good place to start.
So you're 120 pounds, you're going to be aiming for about 120 grams of protein a day.
Right. And so if I had maybe somebody who's a little older or their goals are to lose weight, I would take them down to probably about 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. That's total body weight, not like lean body mass, anything like that. And then for guys, it can be, or people trying to gain weight can go up to like a 1.2, 1.3, starting to add in just a little bit more protein, a little bit higher than their body weight. So like for instance, Austin weighing like 180, his protein's a little bit over to 100 grams.
Because he's looking to gain weight, gain muscle.
Trying to gain some muscle, yeah, and get stronger. And then from there, I would evaluate carbs. So that's kind of even a little bit broader of a range. So like somebody who's a little bit older, needs to lose weight, particularly females would be the lower end. And they have like a sedentary lifestyle. They come in and do their hour-a-day workout. They can go down to like 0.5 gram of carbs per body weight. So that would be kind of like the low end there. You don't want to cut out carbs completely or anything like that. And then like semi-active, comes in, does CrossFit, doesn't do like a whole lot extra, just comes in, does like one high intensity workout, can be right at that 1 gram per pound of body weight as well. And then for people who are trying to gain weight, or people like Zach who are training hours and hours and hours, I mean, it can go anywhere from 1.5 grams per pound of body weight all the way up to 3 times body weight, or even higher, just depending on the amount of volume. But so that's kind of a good range, would be 0.5 anywhere, I would say, unless you're like training super elite. You probably don't need to go over 1.5 grams per pound of body weight without like the suggestion of a coach. And then from there, fat, basically we're all getting enough fat to like regulate our hormones and that sort of thing for like our brain function, just from the other foods that we would already be eating. So the amount of fat that you need for that is actually pretty low. But for like optimal levels, we still want to make sure that we're getting in plenty of fat. And so what I would take there is kind of a guesstimate on what I think their caloric expenditure would be, just based off of their lives, and then kind of filling that void of how big of a deficit do we want to go, or a surplus. So off of that range. And I would always start somebody a little bit higher, especially like when they're trying to lose weight and stuff, starting higher than you'd think, just because you can always take it down, but you never want to start too low. And then it's always aiming like half a pound, up to no more than 2 pounds of weight loss per week is kind of like a good range there.
Yeah, you don't want to be you don't want to be trying to create such a deficit to create this short-term weight loss, because it can really screw you up metabolically in the long run. And
so losing more than 2 pounds a week, I mean, you're not just losing fat, you're losing lean body tissue, which nobody wants to do.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, protein's kind of that priority for a lot of people, and you know, it's interesting how much the carbs can vary from person to person. And even like with someone like Zach and Whitney, who are super high, they're super high in a training season, and I know when they get into like a little bit of their off season, they kind of dial it down, you know. So it's really, there's so many factors that go into it. It's hard. I mean, the short answer is work with a coach or work with someone else to help you kind of dial in those numbers. At least you guys can work together.
Yeah, most importantly, like caloric balance should be your goal. So at least starting with that protein, you can kind of play around, but obviously if you're trying to eat 1,500 calories a day and you're getting that all from avocado, it's probably not going to be what you're looking for.
One other thing I wanted to mention is, because you mentioned like you never want to go no carb, and I know a lot of people have brought it up to me like, hey, I'm trying keto, and you know, we're certainly, probably should have started the episode with this, like, we are not dietitians, you know, we're not doctors, so everything that we do is mainly talking from experience, you know, stuff that we've experienced primarily. But in CrossFit, it is a glycolytic sport, you know, it's a glycolytic training environment, so primarily uses glucose for energy. And if you're going keto, you're going no carb, it's probably not the best fit for what we do. If you're more sedentary and you're not doing this high intensity exercise, potentially it's a fit, but I think people need to have some level of carbohydrates to support what we're doing in here, especially on the recovery side, which we talked about in that last question.
Definitely, at least from veggies. So even if you're not eating sweet potatoes and stuff like that, veggies are carbs, so can't get rid of those.
Yeah, you need that energy to work out. Like, I think like a couple of years ago, they asked the games athletes, like, all right, who does paleo? And like, no one raised their hand because they all just need those carbs to train. Like, and
carbs are not bad. They're not the enemy.
So the next question is, what are the coaches' approaches to nutrition? And we're all across the board. I mean, maybe if you guys want to kind of quickly sum up your own approach a little bit, and then we can talk about some of the other coaches. And I think it's more interesting to maybe talk about the similarities between coaches more so than the differences, because there are some big differences between the coaches. So Tony, you want to start with what?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we keep going back to like these quality, quantity conversations. Like, should I do like quality or should I do macros? And, you know, I'm very much focused on quality. I'll eat as much as I want to, as long as it's good stuff. And that wasn't always the case. So I don't want to talk like I'm always an angel with food, like, because food was a big problem for me, and it took me time to like really have a good relationship with food. But I think through focusing on quality over quantity, it nourishes me. It leaves me feeling full and energized, like, for my workouts. And as I kind of mentioned, 5 days a week, I try to be as good as possible.
Can you talk about what struggles you've had in the past? Because I know from being around you, you've always felt like you've ate healthy. You've always felt like the quality is there. So what's different about quality today versus quality, what you thought quality was 10 years ago?
Yeah, so it took a paleo challenge, like where we got rid of the dairy in our house, the breads and gluten in our house, to realize how much that stuff was negatively affecting my life. And I recommend everyone to do that, to go through some kind of period where they let go of a bunch of foods, see how their body changes, see how their quality of life improves, and then go from there. And then reintroduce foods as they would like. You know, if they really feel like they need ice cream back in their life, reintroduce it. So I had really bad heartburn, struggled with taking pills every single day to keep my heartburn in check. And after that paleo challenge, I take a lot of pride in now not having to take anything related to digestive issues like Pepto or Alka-Seltzer or anything like that. And if I do have any digestive issues from being bad, I make myself suffer through it. Right? I don't let myself take the easy way out and pop a pill, because I'm like, that reminds me of how my diet has been so clean, and I go back to those foods that aren't so clean, and it really affects me.
Tony used to drink a gallon of skim milk every single day.
The secret's out, yeah. I thought that was healthy. I thought skim milk, peanut butter and jelly, like, was the healthiest thing I could eat, and I had that every single night before I went to bed. I was on the gains program.
Let's build strong bones. That's a big lawsuit.
But I also had heartburn every single night. Didn't realize why.
So that was muscle being made in there.
Yeah.
Just churning in there, being made. How would you sum up your approach to nutrition, Danielle? Or what things have you kind of learned about yourself?
So I've always followed a macro-based approach. I've always I guess when I first started CrossFit 6 years ago, I started with a Whole30, kind of learned, you know, carbs, proteins, fats, that sort of thing, but kind of what I should be fueling my body with, but I was really young, so that didn't really, it was kind of like would eat whatever and go to the food court at college and eat Panda Express every day. But then actually I had like a shoulder injury, had a surgery, ended up being like a really, really long recovery. It was not a good surgery, and just took a really long time coming back. And I ended up gaining just like a ton of weight. So I reached out, got a coach, and then I just like absolutely like fell in love with the macro approach. And I think like a really common misconception is, oh, she follows macros, she eats like all this crap. And actually it's really funny because like when we came and visited you, Nikki was like, oh, I don't count macros, but I should. I would love to like eat Oreos. And she's made a comment like that. And in my head, I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking, I haven't had an Oreo in as long as I can remember.
It's so funny. You
good.
literally, Danielle literally snacks on like an entire big Tupperware of just raw vegetables, of like broccoli, pepper. I don't know what do you have in there, but it's just like, I was impressed.
And it's like, it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
And I used to, like at first I'm like, okay, I need to eat these veggies, and it was like, I'm supposed to have a cup with every single meal, so here's my cup, and I'm not eating any more than that, and I'm gonna cover it in mustard, and I'm gonna force it down. Now it's like, I don't need mustard, I like crave vegetables. I'm like, okay, Danielle, you've had enough asparagus today, like save it for tomorrow. And now it's like, I have to like limit myself to how many veggies I eat.
So the food bill doesn't rise too fast, right?
Yeah, produce is expensive, so Austin's like, you go to the grocery store so much. Like, I eat real food, Austin.
It goes bad.
Yeah, it actually goes bad. But so macros have always worked really well for me, and even on days like where I do have something bad, I always kind of will allow myself that. Like if I really wanted it, like Halo Top, and I'll fit that in, and I won't feel guilty about it. I won't feel any remorse the next day, and that's what it is. So
yeah, I think you're a really good example of, like, we kind of opened this conversation with like the number of, let's say, 35 meals in a week. You're the good example of like your 30 are dialed in, like 30 of your meals are dialed in, and you know your 5 or whatever are like, you know, they're treats, but they're also sort of restricted treats as well, like in terms of overall calories and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They're not 2,000 calorie bombs that you're taking in to throw off these other meals, from what I've seen. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and like for breakfast, usually post-workout, like I've been craving French toast all week, so I've been making, like I made French toast, and it was with a clean, like Ezekiel sprouted bread. I use egg whites, a real vanilla, and that was really good.
So my approach is probably very similar to Tony's, very like paleo-centric, I would say. Basically, I did the paleo challenge like when I started CrossFit 8 years ago, and it had a dramatic effect on me, not just in terms of making me leaner. I felt great in the workouts, skin cleared up a lot. I felt like energy-wise, I always felt like a slave to food, and I felt like I couldn't leave my house with like taking a granola bar with me, like everywhere I went. And you know, just being able to kind of teach my body how to run on fat or run on real food in general, and not have to go, you know, not have to go every like hour looking for my next snack or meal, was very just relieving for me. So I've always kind of kept that. I've reintroduced certain foods, like I have a lot more what I call smart carbs now, of like rice, oats, fruit, sweet potatoes, stuff like that, potatoes, regular potatoes too. I don't discriminate. And I just, you know, I feel really good. And I still have a sweet tooth, so for me, that's the slippery slope. I'm better off with like little to no sugar, and just really trying to stay with real foods. And I'm very much a person where I enjoy every single meal that I make. Like I have no meals that are depriving by any means. Like every meal tastes amazing. So yeah, if you ever want like meal ideas, maybe it just works for me, but it feels really good. So yeah, that's kind of how we eat. And I think one of the things that popped up when we were talking about this the other day was like our coaches as a whole, like barely ever drink alcohol at all. And you know, we just came off of July 4th weekend, sometime in the last month or two, depending on when you're listening to this. And like, it was like my worst drinking weekend probably since the holidays. And I must have had 6 or 7 beers over the course of 6 days. Like it was like 2 beers a day for like 3 days. Like it wasn't that bad. But like some people do that every weekend, every Friday and Saturday night. And I think our coaches as a whole, like rarely ever drink, if at all. Like Danielle don't really ever drink. Tony has probably a little more than I do at times, right?
Yeah, and like I don't want to talk from a pedestal. Like we've been there. Like like I said, like
just look up our old Facebook pictures. You'll see some
like
stuff.
I mean, the weekend started at like Thursday afternoon and it stopped like Monday morning. Like that was the weekend. And I mean, it's just like your frame of reference for what is a cheat, what is satisfying, and like you said, the healthy foods are now satisfying. to us because we know we can feel better the next day and hit that workout the next day after a night where we didn't have any drinks.
Yeah, and a lot of it's who you surround yourself with. And now that we're surrounded by a staff where, you know, a lot of us have a great time with each other, with the rest of the members without having a drink, it's like, it's more of a nice to have every once in a while, and then you feel the effects of it, so you're like, wow, I actually would have enjoyed that night more if I didn't drink, and the next morning would have been more productive. Kids also helps with that, you know. Yeah. You never get to sleep in, so kids helps with that.
Yeah, sleep isn't like a given. Yeah. Like it used to be.
But yeah, that's a big one, and I think another big one is just the real food. You know, I think if you were to talk about our staff as a whole, like you have some that are more focused on quality and some that are more focused on quantity, but everyone has, if you were to look at it from a standard American diet, or even from our members who are more health conscious, every single one would look at the quality of what our coaches are eating in terms of vegetables specifically and quality proteins and be impressed with it, I think, across the board. Now, some people cheat more or cheat off track more or go further off track than others, and you see the highlight reels of maybe donuts or ice cream, and that's where I think maybe the variability and the exceptions come in. But if you were to look at what is that, like 50% of what everyone's eating, there's a lot of overlap of really good quality foods.
Yeah, I think people ask about macros with the thought of like escaping quality.
Right.
And like you're not going to, like quality is still going to be the first thing we talk to you about, especially if you get this girl as your coach. Like she's going to make you dial it in and you're going to be walking around with broccoli snacks.
Cool. So we'll move on to the next question. And this is any tips for members who would like to add muscle and size. So almost always we're talking from the context of weight loss, just because that's what we're usually bombarded with. So there's a lot of members out there that are on the leaner side that want to add muscle, they want to add size. They're okay actually even adding a little bit of fat as long as most of what they're adding is good quality weight. So what are the good go-tos when someone is trying to add muscle or add size?
So like the most calorically dense foods, first and foremost, find ones that you like and that are super easy for you to just always have around. So like perfect bars, we talked about making like smoothies.
Dried fruit was another.
Dried fruit is another really good one. Stuff that's really easy that doesn't take up a lot of room in your stomach, and it's just like little to no volume whatsoever. Complete opposite if you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, typically if we're recommending weight loss, we're saying avoid liquid calories, you know, avoid really calorie dense foods. Like don't overdo butters and oils. Like you can use some of that stuff, but don't overdo it because you're not going to notice 500 calories of that. So if you're trying to gain weight, you can sneak that stuff in, kind of flip some of our instructions around on their head, because usually it's kind of the opposite approach. With that said, we also talk about you still want to have some degree of food quality in there, because one of the mistakes is that people binge on just like bad stuff and then they end up just adding bad weight and they don't feel very good.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the quality, no matter what, if you're eating in a caloric surplus, which you have to in order to be building any sort of muscle, you're going to put on a little bit of fat. So the cleaner your sources of food, your intake is, the less fat you're going to put on in addition to that muscle. But regardless, you will be putting on a little bit there. So if you were to just be like, oh, I'm bulking, I'm gonna eat a dozen donuts and 5 burgers, that is going to have a way bigger impact on your fat that you're adding on, as opposed to muscle, where if you were eating like clean, like some sort of potatoes, even like perfect bars.
So we're talking about people that want to gain muscle, gain weight, and one thing that popped in my head was just you want to be realistic about what you could gain. I think a lot of people want to see this huge difference, and same with the weight loss, but even I think gaining is going to be even slower, especially for someone who's posing this question and probably struggles with it. Like, you know, even just 1 or 2 pounds of muscle, if you can gain that, and if you can gain that consistently, even if you're doing that 6 months out of the year, that's 6 pounds of muscle you gained in a year, and that adds up. I mean, we've all been doing CrossFit a while. Like at this point, I'd have an extra 50 pounds of muscle if I was doing that. So, you know, the be patient with it and don't try to rush it. It's true with weight loss, but I think it's even more true with the muscle gain is that you have to be a little bit more patient. So Tony, you had some tips on like protein stuff?
I think just like dialing in the hour before your workout and the hour after. Like if you're just like letting yourself go hungry like hours after your workout, you're missing a big opportunity for that mass to rebuild. And then on the front side of a workout, you want to have those glycogen stores full so that you just don't start depleting your muscles once you come into a very intense CrossFit workout, right? And we're talking to mainly CrossFit athletes that they should be carbs before, carbs after, and protein and carbs in both, so that they're feeling like they're restoring their energy and muscles.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be working out fasted consistently if your goal is to gain weight, because you're just missing a huge opportunity. And then Danielle's played around with casein protein, so tell us a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah, so casein is also dairy, but it is slower digesting than whey. So whey is the most easily digested or most quickly digested, and casein is the exact opposite. So like when I have clients who are trying to gain weight or even just maintain muscle, you know, as they're trying to lose weight, we want to kind of eliminate that fasted period so that we aren't breaking down muscle when we're in a weight loss or a weight gain. So having that like steady, constant flow, like while we're sleeping, amino acids going like through our GI tract is really crucial to avoiding any sort of muscle breakdown. So having those proteins. And so if you're trying to gain weight, having that like nutrient timing is where it becomes a little more important than someone who's trying to lose weight, because always having some sort of protein, whether it's 3 to 5 ounces or whatever it may be every couple of hours, anything past like 5 hours without a protein source, I mean that GI tract is going to be empty, and so we need that constant flow of amino acids, or else we're in a catabolic state, which we want to avoid.
And you said it's helped you sleep better as well, right?
Oh yeah,
For you personally?
I sleep so hard. I've had a lot of good personal experience with drinking casein, as well as a lot of clients I've talked to.
Yeah, so you could be combining a few of the things that we're talking about, which is increased protein through the casein, having another smoothie, we talk about the liquid calories, and then having something, you know, before bed, having this sort of widening this eating window, or this window of time that you're getting stuff into your system. So that can be a simple way for you to do it, is to add that casein shake at night before bed. Just one thing to pay attention to, which we also have kind of just cautioned with whey as well, is just kind of pay attention to digestive stuff as well, because some people do have issues with that. So, you know, it's definitely going to be an individualized thing, whether that works for you or not. All right, so we got 2 more questions. And we kind of addressed this one a little bit. We can get a little bit more specific with it. But what is the biggest difference between morning people and nighttime workout people? So someone who works out 5, 6, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. versus someone who's working out 5, 6, 7 p.m. What are the biggest differences?
So really it's just going to be kind of going off of that same like general guideline. If you're an AM worker outer, your majority of your carbs are going to be based around that meal, and then kind of waterfall down throughout the day, so that maybe by dinner, you know, you have your protein and your highest fat meal. And then it would be just the complete opposite for whoever, if you're working out at 7 p.m. So your highest fat meal will be breakfast, and then slowly start incorporating your carbs, having like your heaviest carb meal around your dinner. Doesn't have to be at 9 o'clock at night if you get home from the gym super late. Maybe you finish on a shake, but your dinner before would be your higher carb meal with minimal to no fat. So.
And should people be worried about eating too late at night?
No, it's a myth. Carbs are carbs, no matter what time of the day it is.
Yeah, I think that was kind of inherently hidden in the question, is that fear of eating late at night. And one thing that we talked about is like if you're a 7 p.m. person, you're getting done at 8 o'clock, and let's say you're going to bed by 10, like you have a short window. Maybe you're someone who's not having shake and meal, like trying to fit it in, you know, unless you're trying to gain weight, but let's say you're trying to lose weight. Maybe you actually have your dinner before your workout around 5:30, and then you just have your shake after your workout, or vice versa. You have a shake leading up to your workout, and then you have a nice dinner, high carb dinner after that late night workout. So don't feel pressured to maybe sandwich in both between 8 to 10 p.m. at night, or 8:30 to 10 p.m. because you're probably not home till 8:30. probably not done cooking till 9. So whereas an AM person, like we typically would have them do like more of a shake and then have that meal somewhat close by to that workout. You might not be doing that in PM. So.
Yeah, and I would make sure they actually have something after that workout, because CrossFit is a very intense workout, and like you said, it's catabolic. It's breaking down your muscle. To just go into sleep after that without any pain is not going to be good for your strength and your muscle growth.
Yeah. And then the last, actually 2 more questions. Both will be fairly quick. Is someone asked how do they stay focused and consistent over the long term? So recently finished up our Superhuman 40 challenge. You know, Tony did a great job sending out emails. We had a private Facebook group. There's a lot of built-in accountability, even though you don't really have a coach. So we are going to be offering one-on-one nutrition coaching here. By the time you guys listen to it, we'll probably have it in place. But also an accountability partner can be really helpful. Having someone else who's going through the same thing, who has similar goals to you, they're also maybe working out at the same time as you, and having someone else that's keeping you on track. Like, you can't undervalue accountability in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through one of us or through one of your fellow members. If you guys have any other thoughts or any other suggestions with that, or maybe how to work with a partner or how to work with a coach?
The best results we've seen through our challenges is always when someone can talk their spouse into getting on board as well. You know, it's always like, yeah, I lost 10 pounds, but my husband lost 20. And it's like, that's great. Like, they talked their partner at home into being on board with them in the challenge, and they helped each other do it together, and it's awesome. You need that. Like, if you have someone at home that's holding you back and not on the same journey as you, it's just very hard.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And same with like work relationships or social circles, is like a lot of the things that you value because the people you surround yourself with value those things. And one can come before the other. You can actually start to hang out with different people and your values will follow before having to change your values in order to hang out with like different people. And I think that's something that you want to evaluate is you know, maybe the reason you're not willing to drink a little bit less or cut out certain treats or certain nights out is just because of the people you're surrounding yourself with. That's what they value. And once you surround yourself with different people, you realize how, you know, you can get a lot of the things that you were wanting, whether it be connection or, you know, having fun, having a good time. Like, all that stuff can come from a different social circle if you're willing to kind of give it up. All right, so last question we got was someone asked if we had resources for eating disorders. And this is something that we really wanted to include in this because a number of reasons. One is that we're not really capable of handling something like that. So if you have or have had in the past any type of eating disorder, definitely want to speak to a professional on that. I Googled it, and there's actually a local chapter called the Alliance for Eating Disorders Awareness. They have a chapter in West Palm Beach. They only have 2 chapters in Florida, and one of them is in West Palm Beach, and they have local meetings, so that might be something worth checking out if you need some support in that area. And then definitely use us as well. So we can't diagnose or prescribe anything, but we can definitely be an outlet. We can be an ear to listen to vent to, and just know that you're not alone in this thing. I think in our discussions, we've all kind of realized we all have maybe not eating disorders, but disordered eating habits or disordered eating things that we've struggled with our entire lives. So not to downplay a true eating disorder, but we can certainly relate, and if you bring something up to us, we're never going to be surprised by it or never make you feel bad about it. We're going to certainly be able to relate to it and hopefully just be there to support you. So and then beyond that, go ahead and definitely look for professional help on top of it. So anything else?
No.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for the questions.